Commissioner McGlaris is on, the video. I see Representative Howard is also on the Zoom. I think the weather has thrown a monkey wrench in people as their trees are coming down and blocking them in. Welcome to the Strafford County Executive, Committee meeting. I'll just start off by saying, this is the first time I've had to do one. And it was kind of a crash course with criminal justice. Not everybody, we literally just had the meeting at 8:30. I apologize that we didn't have a quorum, and I'll try to do better next time so that everybody gets the criminal justice report in advance so they can see it. And with that, I'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Representative Bay, would you like to do the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
That's okay. And I'll ask our clerk to call the roll, please.
Bailey,
Present.
Burnham, here. Roy is excused. Harrington,
Here.
Corrigan,
Here.
I'll do it.
Howard,
Here.
I have you do it.
Kaczynski,
Here.
Lamontagne, here. Perfect. Here, Malone, here. Potenza,
Here.
Oh.
Potenza,
Here.
Schmidt,
Here.
Southward,
Here.
Wall, and Allen.
Here. Did you get Howard?
Yeah.
All right, I had taken out the moment of silence, but Administrator Bauer mentioned that we've had a passing, so can I have Administrator Bauer speak to that, please?
I'll recognize the gentleman from Community Action.
Oh, no longer with community
Oh, I'm
action,
sorry.
but that's okay. That's how we got to know each other. We lost a bright light last night at Willett. One of probably the best men that I know, and a tireless and relentless servant for our homeless individuals, died from a heart attack while serving last night. It would only be apropos that he's remembered here. Because he did, even though he did not live in this county, he served 7 days a week. His name was John Carter.
So sorry for your loss. With that, I'll give a moment of silence, please. Okay, with that heavy news, we'll start with the report, since it's fresh in Representative Liu's mind. We literally just had it. Can you give us a brief overview of the Criminal Justice Subcommittee work?
Well, for the criminal justice subcommittee, we had this very brief presentations from the different factions. And at the end of that, there was an amendment to the budget, which is a $12,000 addition to the budget of the jail, the clothing. So adding a clothing budget of $12,000 so that for fresh underpants for refugees. So that's the only change. So I'd like to present the budget with a $12,000 amendment.
Are there questions on the Criminal Justice Subcommittee?
Yeah, I have one. So there wasn't a quorum, right?
We had a quorum this morning. We did not have a quorum. It was
On February 14th.
February 14th, we were originally scheduled and we did not have a quorum.
Oh,
So
okay.
we, were really struggling to try to reschedule the meeting. And the only time we could really get it was today.
Oh, okay, but you had a quorum today.
We had a
Okay.
forum today.
That's all.
Questions? Anything? It appeared to me that the criminal justice subcommittee was flat. The question that came up during Representative Harrington raised it was about revenue. There was an increase in revenue that is coming from ICE that will offset some of the expenses that were in the criminal justice. But the criminal justice, since they only deal with expenses, didn't get to see the offset that's occurring with revenue. And so when Representative Southworth does the revenue and capital expenditures, we can explain how the revenue is offsetting the expenses. Okay, with that, we will move on to Representative Oregon. You did the general government subcommittee.
Yes, so the general government subcommittee, that is pretty much all of the above subcommittees, so if it isn't criminal justice or rest home, or then it's with us, and we did have a forum on 14th. The first thing we did was resource agencies, so there's 3 that are I guess not really part of the government at all, but which we help pay for because the services they provide are useful and save cost for the county government or in advance what we spend. Meals and Wheels and the Easter Seals Homemaker Health Services, that's 42,000 and 80,000 respectively. That was the same as last year. We had skipping ahead the paper loop, the last one, Coast Transportation, we're giving them pick them up from, I think it was like 72,000 to 85,000. That's partially because ridership is up, right? Although ridership is more up because it was down during the pandemic, so it's starting to bounce back and people are using the buses more. And we need mostly the coast bus stops out front, and that's very important for the county complex. There's people who work at the courthouse, people who have business at the courthouse, or the other agencies. There's other agencies who are housed here in the campus, people coming to visit loved ones at the prison, and I think even a few rest home residents use the bus, even though they have their own van. Skipping back to the Soil Conservation District and Cooperative Extension, which are both partnership with the federal government. Those are both where we increased their funding, I think 2.5, the Soil Conservation District, 2.6 Cooperative Extension, just because their costs are going. They also provide very valuable service to the county and to the municipalities. Then we approved the administrator's budget. There was the commissioner's office budget went up a little bit because the pay scale, like commissioners, county attorney, really elected officials, was set and went up slightly 2 years ago, last time we did it. Registry of Deeds, their spending is down, which is not really a good thing necessarily because real estate transfers is going down. So, there's prices are high, but the inventory is low. So, still runs a surplus, and I think there's still hopefully they'll be spending a lot more next year. Hopefully there'll be an uptick in real estate transactions. Hopefully people buy and sell more real estate next year. But the biggest item, actually the whole budget, biggest item in anybody's budget is 11,139,212 for Medicaid costs. Which is basically the state sets it during the budget process, and it's basically just a way of paying for part of Medicaid out of property taxes. So that's the purpose of that. And we don't know what's going to happen with the budget process, so we may have to come back and adjust that number. It'd be nice if we could adjust it down, but we'll probably have to adjust it up. But that's based on that very large number is based on what we can expect from the last budget. Then we did the maintenance Maintenance department, which anyway, it's going up. It's like a little bit because utility costs are going up with like level funded. Aside from that, and we also Rochester Cafe out here, which pretty much breaks even. So we had the spending for Rochester Cafe, but it makes enough revenue to cover its costs. We had it did take a hit. This year they had to put in a new vent because the old venting system failed inspection and they had to replace it, but that's just one-time cost and it had to be done. And then we also do the interest on the temporary loans. Of course, this cost respect our fiscal year is different than that of the towns. So we have to borrow, we have to like borrow money to pay for our costs before we get the revenue from the cities and towns when they sell their tax bill. That's not really not much we do about unless we had an 18-month fiscal year, 1 year, which not be much fun. So a lot of the counties have done it, and we have the health insurance. Health insurance is going up, and we're trying to, we have been getting the employees to pay a higher share of the cost, but still going up a bit. Our very small amount for the county convention, that's us, so we're it's the same as last year, depends on how many meetings we have to have, and there's a few other smaller things, and we had to do the capital expenditures. There's like various routine things. We had a controversy over that last year, and so anyway, the total amount for our part of the one raise is $28,604,070, and we approved it 5-2. So here I am, like passing on that recommendation to you. So,
Are there any questions about the general government? Yes.
I'd like to offer some comments
Yes,
being
sure.
on that committee, and gotta apologize, I couldn't hear all my chairman was saying just now. I forgot to put my hearing aid
I'm
in.
probably not talking
So
loud.
I hope you didn't cover anything that I'm gonna say.
That's fine.
You know,
My apologies for not talking louder.
well,
They should have given us microphones like we had at the state house.
we had some well-meaning groups that came in front of us for money that come every year. And when I looked at the financials on some of these, it was, I'd say, a little shocking to some extent. Say, you assume when somebody comes for money that they're just about making it by and this is gonna carry them through. I look at like Meals on Wheels. Now they have cash assets over $1 million, but they have money market and CDs that total over $850,000. Their equity, they have an undesignated fund balance of $267,000, another $1 million in equity. Easter Seals had an $18 million operating surplus and $46.8 million in net assets. They have dividend interest income of $1.48 million a year. And they're coming to us for money. I mean, really. Coast Transportation, surprisingly, that's a big subsidy, but they have $3 million in the pot. They've got a fund of $3 million. I mean, I don't know if people know this or if this is acceptable. To me, I just don't look at that as like people in need. You have in this country, 60% of the people here can't come up with $600 on short notice, and we're giving money out like this. Maybe somebody will say, oh, it's a small amount of the budget, it's not much, but I don't know. My father always said, watch your pennies and the dollars take care of themselves. I just like to bring that up anyway, and I wonder why we're even funding.
Yeah, Representative Harris.
Yeah, I guess it's mostly to the representative who spoke. On the coast transportation, I've seen these buses all the time, and almost inevitably, there's like 2 or 3 or 4 people on them. I just wonder, has there been any analysis of passengers per bus mile? Because you would almost think you could take a van and get rid of these buses and really cut down on cost, because again, I've never seen one crowded, and I see them all the time with 1 or 2 people on them. I didn't see them go to the different shopping malls. I've stepped on the bus to look to make sure There's nobody on it or one person on it. I mean, is there a better way to approach that? Has anyone looked into that?
We'll respond to two of those questions. Coast, I mean, I don't have the details of it and I don't have the details of everything we presented at the meeting, but they do actually have some on-demand van services.
I'm talking about the ones that you see driving back and
Yes,
forth
well,
on
they-
scheduled roads.
Well, I mean, they keep data on that, so like, how many people are riding the buses and, I'm sure they're trying to do this as efficiently as they can. And of course, sometimes the van is empty, sometimes the bus is empty because there's a crowd of people waiting at the other end of the bus line, but, so that's, the other two agencies, well, yes, I guess they do have responsible fiscal management, probably more so than our state government has, but, I'm not sure if it's fair to expect them to bankrupt themselves just to,
My point wasn't that, I'm just simply saying.
No,
they-
who's asking?
You asked me the question,
Yeah.
they drive 100,000 miles in a year, how many passengers per mile are there?
I don't have that number at the tip of my tongue. I'm pretty sure that it does exist, so.
So Representative, I guess the question I'm asking is, are you making an amendment where you'd like to remove funding for these
Yes.
agencies? Or are you looking for, as we approach it, the next fiscal budget, would you want them to explain their fund balance more? I'm action item wise, what would you like the executive council to do?
Well, I wasn't prepared for an amendment, but I guess I just wanted to bring that out. I would propose not funding them. I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Well, you have to give me an actual number. I mean,
Zero.
Maybe take out those two.
so what line item would you take out and how much would you take out? If you're
Not
gonna
funding
propose-
means zero. That's the number for the item discussed.
I would
which,
say for the Meals on Wheels, the Easter Seals, and Coast Transportation, zero.
those on wheels.
I mean, I've got some questions with the cooperative district too, but I'm sure we'll take that on.
It was let me, just as for clarification, so Meals on Wheels, Coast, and
Easter seal.
Easter Seal. Okay, I'm gonna have to have a numerical number for that in order to come up with
You're moving zero. Zero.
zeroing the line item.
Yeah, so.
Zero. It means zero. It means nothing.
We still need a number of
I-
how much we're taking.
I
out.
just wanted
The dollars they request.
Representative Lamontagne.
Yeah, I would just like a little more clarification of your numbers. So for Easter sales, is that the county, the state, national? What are you talking about?
I believe this is the New Hampshire Easter Seals.
Yeah,
For the whole state?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can clarify that, so.
I mean, this is the organization, that whatever division of it is the one that is requesting the money from us.
Yeah.
Because they submitted their financials. There's a lot of dollars there. I
Yeah.
mean, this is, when you think of a nonprofit or a charity, you're thinking of, this is a huge business. I mean,
But I would say from my limited experience with Easter seals, one thing they're trying to do is buy housing to provide more housing for people with disabilities. Big backlog if they're not able to find housing that they can buy. And I believe a lot of that money is, waiting to have the opportunity to find the right properties to provide the housing that's needed.
so they're in the real estate business. It's an NGO, non-government organization that gets money from the government. They really should call them a government organization. But it's kind of, to me, and maybe there's a good reason why they're looking at these things in Washington. It's kind of masking the way the money goes around here and there. So you got somebody going in a real estate business, but they've got certain tax advantages and funding advantages that are not with somebody in the private sector. So, if I just look at these huge numbers, I don't know. Am I wrong? Did I read them wrong? I don't know.
Let me, did you have a question?
I do
Representative
have a question. I haven't looked at this closely enough, to be able to delve in. So I don't Is there a number, a line item on a page that we
I
can
can
see?
give you all three. I'm doing this quickly
Okay.
off the cuff.
Yeah.
All right, so Meals on Wheels is $42,000. Coast is $88,656, and Easter Seals is $80,000. So you are looking, I'm sorry, I should be better at math, but let me pull this up.
No one has any more calculators, right?
But it's, of course, my phone, it's like updating, so I can't.
410,656.
It's hard to justify to somebody who's barely in their own house that we're taking these tens of thousands of dollars from them to give to other people.
May I point out, though, that people that are in their own house, just barely making it, are the exact kind of people that would benefit from Meals on Wheels, delivering meals to their home, or helping them with their disability.
I'd look in vain in the Constitution for charities.
Okay, so, if you give me one
Yeah,
second,
pause, please.
let me pause this just for 1 second.
210,656.
Yeah,
So
I have 210,656.
I did that in my head.
All right, to move this along, you would need to make a motion to strike, $210,656,000 from the budget.
Okay, I'd make that motion to take away $210,656.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And would anyone like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I guess, first of all, these agencies, the coast provides agencies directly to the county complex, so if that goes away, those people still have to get here and go back home, so, and with the Meals on Wheels, Easter Seals, yes, they are responsibly financially managed, they did leave themselves in question, so I guess in all fairness, they're not operating on the edge of disaster, but I think that's all the more reason to support them. And we actually, Easter Seals is actually replacing another agency which actually did manage to go broke, and Easter Seals kind of stepped in to take up the work. So we're probably, we're certainly better off having them here than having nobody providing those services. And it's probably, they've gotten, well, I've seen a higher level of service from this organization, which, is responsibly fiscally managed as opposed to the old one, which was kind of, as I said, operating on the edge of disaster, which is apparently what some people in charities should do. And I'll make a very, very briefly a sort of philosophical comment. We've heard for years that charities, non-governmental organizations can do things more efficiently than government, but now we're attacking, now at least some people are then attacking those too, so I'm not sure like how it is, we're supposed to help those who are less fortunate, but I think.
Administrator Bauer, do you have?
I only want to bring one thing to the attention of the executive committee. Certainly, however you decide on this is not, if their decision, based on the change is to stop the services they provide in Strafford County. And I'm talking here about Coast. If they say, fine, you're not giving us the money, we're stopping the line. We can't just presume that if you stop the money, that they're gonna take the money from the other money they have and use it to continue the line. If they stop the line, then our drug court will be somewhat in jeopardy, because there's no way for our drug court participants to come here. We have 2 residents right now at Riverside that actually can take the bus, so that's, we could probably figure out a different form of transportation for those 2 residents. We have, people that come in, and we have 599 as of last Monday, people that are on community corrections. A lot of them take the bus to come here to report for community corrections. Flipping the Meals on Wheels, and Easter Seals, if their decision, and that's their business decision, nothing to do with me. If their business decision is to say, fine, if the county doesn't want to fund it, then we're gonna stop those services. There's no question there's gonna be more people who financially qualify for those services. Remember, it's not given to anybody who asks. the money that we give to Easter Seals is money that is used to keep people at home, as opposed to needing nursing home placement, and to provide them food for Meals on Wheels, which also again stops nursing home placement. That's the theory why the county's involved with these three entities, as opposed to many other entities that have asked the county for funding. But we've denied that because it doesn't have a direct correlation to a county operation. So I'm simply warning, I don't know what their entity's decision would be. You know, it might be, fine, we'll take money from our fund balance and continue the service. Or it might be, because we've never asked them, it might be the fact that they just simply stop the service.
I would go with the assumption they're gonna stop the service, but I'll get to you next, Representative,
So, the motion has been made, but, the appropriate forum for this discussion is not this committee, in my opinion, but rather the subcommittee, which, just like the subcommittee that met this morning with regard to criminal justice, the other subcommittees all meet. The individuals that are being subsidized, supported in any fashion by the county, they appear before the subcommittee. They present their specific budget. They're available for answering questions of the subcommittee members. That's already happened. The subcommittee has already heard all these items, and the subcommittees, to my knowledge, the ones I attended, one this morning and one Riverside Rest Home a couple of weeks ago. I attended those. The other two, I was in Concord. Try as I might, I just can't. Every time I try to be in two places at one time, I close my eyes, I open. I'm either in place A or place B. I just can't manage to be in two places at one time. I was in Concord from my own committee, so I was unable to be here for that.
Yeah.
But I believe that the subcommittees have all have met and acted and made their reports. And so that was the place to have the people who had their actual paperwork, who are the administrator, the executive. Brad Nichols, for example, of Coast Bus, was here last year when I attended that meeting. And they get questioned, they make their presentation, and the subcommittee, I believe, has recommended the commissioners' proposed budget.
thank you, Representative.
A point of order, I'm
Yes.
sorry to interrupt, but we have a motion.
I was,
So all we have to do on the motion is discuss it, pros and cons, and vote.
So Representative
Yeah.
Potenza, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I would. I just, I think when it comes to all of this is if we're looking for a product or a service or something like that, it should just be clearly defined. So if we need X amount of services from Coast, from, gosh, I'm blanking on.
Yes,
Thank you, Meals on Wheels, or Easter Seals. That's not how it's working. We're just, right? Are we just giving a donation in a sense and expecting that? If that's not the case, then if these things are, if we're saying we're gonna give you $40,000 for, this amount of services, then and that's how it's all played out, then I'm sorry, I'm not for just cutting this out at this point. If we're asking for certain services and those have been defined and we're getting those, if there needs to be accountability, if there needs to be transparency, all of that, definitely. But, if these organizations are, they are financially solvent, maybe we negotiate those rates or something like that. But if we're asking for these types of services and we're getting those services, I don't think we can just cut it off right now at this point, so.
Thank you for taking my question. For these appropriations, are they expended on a quarterly basis, based in a quarter, or based on what they need? Usually appropriations, they just get the whole thing, sometimes it's at the end of the year, or it's quarterly. I'm just trying to figure out how that plan is?
I'm gonna pass that to Mr. Bauer.
It's quarterly on behalf of Coast, but we have contracts with each of these three agencies.
Okay.
And the contracts say, they give us an estimate, which was presented to the subcommittee, of how many people they will serve and how much they get per service of person. So on entities like, Meals on Wheels and, Easter Seals, which used to be homemakers, we provide them funding per person of services that they've provided. Now, every year, in, let's say the last 20 years is my best memory, they've always, towards the end of the year, their services they provide exceed the amount we budgeted, but we don't give them money beyond what the delegation has set. So they're actually providing some of the services that we've contracted with them for in excess of the amount of money that we have. And an example, specific example is Meals on Wheels, where a number of years ago, I think before you were on the delegation, we actually came back to the executive committee and asked them for a little more money out of the contingency fund so that they wouldn't have to deny people meals. Now that hasn't happened in the last few years. They've asked for enough and the contract. So basically what we're doing is buying the service from them for a specific reason. And we have a contract, once the budget's approved, we then do all the math out, we do the contracts, they sign it, the commissioners sign them, and we pay them based on the contract. At the beginning, when you meet for your first quarter meeting, they're probably all gonna show zero.
Okay.
Because, we don't have the contracts in place by the end of March, considering your delegation meeting's the 19th. We won't have that all done. Poor Janet has to do it, and we work on that together. So it'll show zero, but then we'll retroactively pay them from January, probably sometime in April or May. So in the second quarter, it'll show where they're at, based on the contract.
I'm sorry, Representative Malone, you had a question?
No, I mean, Mr. Bauer just basically explained that, like, as somebody who, like, we low income families in Strafford County depend on these services. These are not luxury items. Nobody is, there's a wait list for Meals on Wheels. So we have seniors in homes that are not getting more than maybe one meal a week. Some, or they're on the wait list, and because you gotta staff these, like what these people do is so complex because it is connected to such a unique population. Just because they're nonprofit does not mean they should not be paid appropriately for, in what I've seen, very high quality services for a population that truly needs it. Cutting something like this is a very small portion of the budget. And I will tell you that all of them, they also go down to the cities, right? So they'll come to Rochester. So what you cut here, like, all of those things get pushed down, and all of our individual towns and cities are going to be drastically impounded, from community corrections to seniors, people with disabilities who have worked their whole lives as well to get these services. Coast, you're right, maybe the bus isn't always full, but the amount of services that Coast goes above and beyond for us, other social service agencies giving us free bus tickets so we can get people to social security appointments to get their IDs and to maintain a good life. These are not luxury items.
Question?
Yeah, I appreciate your opinion on that. But to say there's a waiting list and these people can't be served, these people have $1 million here. To say you can't get help and you can't get a car on the road or a meal, this doesn't add up to me. I'm sorry. And if you say it's a small part of the budget, I look at it this way. It's kind of a philosophy. If you look at things like this, where you'll allow this money to be accumulated here, and this is fine and dandy, maybe, I'm looking at the whole budget. I look at everything. If that's your philosophy, that's a totally different philosophy than I have. Someone who's been in business all my life.
So I'm gonna, my personal take on this, I think there are some questions about, the reserve funds of some of these facilities, these services. And we're, taking notes on this, and I'll ask that we take the notes from this. And next, budget, when the subcommittee on general government meets, that the notes from these go into that, because there's some questions that could be answered, I think, in advance. To Representative Schmidt's points, that the subcommittee would actually have more time to work on
I have
that.
one thing.
One quick.
I agree with Representative Schmidt, and I had my hand up for discussion at that meeting. Perhaps the chairman didn't see me before the vote. The vote came quickly. I just want to discuss these things at that time, and that didn't happen.
We'll take that at the next one. Representative Bailey, do you have a question?
Well, you want to put off finding the answers to this. Are we also putting off this vote on whether to move this budget forward?
We are not. In fact, I will call the question right now.
On the amendment.
The amendment was, to restate it, was to cut $210,656,000 from the general government, budget. Clerk, can you call the, roll, please?
Bailey,
No. I'm sorry, wait. This is to vote.
This is, you're voting to cut 210,000.
Yes.
Burnham,
No.
Harrington,
No, I don't think we have enough information to make that cut at this time.
Corrigan,
No, in the amendment.
Howard,
No.
Kaczynski,
Yes.
Lamontagne? No. What, what's no? Malone,
No.
Potenza,
No.
Schmidt,
No.
Southworth,
No,
and Law,
No.
and Howland.
No. So motion fails 12-2. So I think that takes care of the, general government subcommittee. With that, I'll move on to Representative Southworth's
Okay.
report, which is the, revenue and capital expenditure.
and I want to start, some people have the information, some people don't. Administrator Bauer has some new information that does impact revenue, so I'll have him start before I do my report.
Just so you're all aware, and we took, it was what we were going to do anyway, but we took Representative Bailey's guidance to heart, where he said, if you want to increase your salaries and things at the jail, then you get the borders to pay for it. So I am pleased to say that we have a tentative agreement. The only thing we're determining is what day it starts. We're asking it goes retroactive to January.
Yes.
That's our hope. But in the budget, I budgeted to start it at the 1st of April. So if we get it to 1st of January, that would be all the better. And we're awaiting a decision on that. That was we've been going back and forth for the last couple of months. And that's for immigration and customs enforcement. But so there's two pieces to that revenue. One is our expectation of an increase in number of borders from immigration. That part's already taken place. We've agreed on a sum of money, which the commissioners have approved. And I'm sure George will agree with that too. And we're, So that part's working. We've also submitted all our documents to, US Marshals Service. That's a little slower going, but, we don't have any reason to believe we're gonna have any issues, with the money that we put aside for the US Marshal. That might start closer to the April first budgeted as opposed to, any retroactivity.
Representative Potenza?
Yeah, just I have a quick question about that. So, do you feel like you will be hearing soon? I mean, that retro piece to me is critical that it has to go back to January 1, is my first thing, my first question. My second question is, how are reimbursements coming in now? Can you tell me, like, how timely they are? Are we getting paid every 30 days? How is that working right now?
Every 30 days at the most. Sometimes, as an example, they're changing their billing system for, let's just call it ICE, because it's easier. They're changing their billing system for ICE, and they can't seem to get it to work. So they've allowed us to bill January and February under the old system.
Okay.
And they pay usually within 20 or 30 days, and we bill them within 3 days of the close of the month. That way, you know, it's not us holding up the billing. I wish Medicaid was like that in the state, but I'm happy to at least have that relationship with the federal government, that they pay quite quickly. And the marshal does also.
Okay, good.
They pay really fast. The only thing that gets a little tricky is sometimes you have an inmate that is under the custody of the US Marshal, and then they get convicted and part of their sentence is deportation. And so sometimes there's a little argument between ICE and the US Marshal about when that takes place. So like in the middle of the month, somebody could get changed over to ICE. So, and sometimes they don't always communicate that with us. So sometimes the billing is delayed a few days while those two entities fight it out.
Okay.
Because they won't pay unless they have a clean bill. So it's not like you can bill them and they'll just cross it out and put it, they don't accept that. So they have to send us the information back, we fix the bill but it's all electronically.
Yeah.
So there's no waste in time and we have somebody that won't ever take vacation at the beginning of a month so that the billing is never delayed.
Okay, good.
Representative Harrington?
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple of questions, on the room and board jail, HOC, is that the one we're talking about? It's a line item on revenues, room and board jail, parentheses, HOC.
We're talking about the 12 million.
No, this one here, the 95.
That is actually a piece of our jail industries program. So as jail industries run.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay. I'm sorry, I won't answer it.
My other question was on the US Marshal line, it says, this year, the approved budget was 630,000 and we anticipated receipts of next year of 630,000. Now, I realize you say some of this there's gonna be an increase in the amount, not just the amount of, we're gonna get paid more for housing them, but there's also gonna be more of them, correct?
Particularly for immigration, not for, we don't expect any additional number for, the US Marshals.
Okay, you do not. Okay,
We
that's
do
why
not.
that's why that's flat.
The only time that comes is when, we get, like right now, we're boarding nearly 40 from the state of Maine.
44 from the state of Maine and 75 from the state of New Hampshire. We have 2 from Vermont right now, 1 from Boston, and 5 Bureau prisoners.
And what line item does the increase in?
I'm gonna go over the line items when we get to this, if it's okay.
Okay, fine. I just wanted to know where that.
Yeah.
You'll see, but we're gonna do it anyway. Go ahead.
All right, Representative Morgan?
Well, there's a news story that, ICE is now detaining detainees up in Berlin at the state prisons. Is that gonna affect?
I can answer what we've been told, because needless to say, we asked about that. Their intention of detaining people in Berlin is long-term, people that are likely going through a lot of legal proceedings in an effort to stay in the United States. So they could be in Berlin for months and months and months, understanding that there is a delay I mean, the immigration courts are backed up. So they're gonna send, those are primarily, those aren't the people we hold.
Okay.
Let's just leave it that way.
Okay, that's what.
So Representative Southwick, you wanna work your way
Sure,
through
I'd
the
be
line?
glad to. So if you want to look at page 39, it's a fairly easy summary. There haven't been many major changes. I'll let everyone get that open. I'm just going to look at millions. What Representative Harrington was mentioning, if you look under jail income, it went up by $4 million. So that's some of
What's the
the,
line item?
it's awfully small. It's jail income.
One six zero.
It's like 10 lines down, jail income.
Okay. Here we go.
Yep, yeah.
Thank you. So that's plus 4 million.
Okay, so that's with the biggie.
Yeah.
Okay.
And at the very top, where it has the nursing home, that lost 1 million. That's the very top line. Then the very bottom line under revenue estimates, which used to be offsetting, they dropped that, so that was minus 1 million. So you had a 4 million gain, a 2 million loss, and then when you look at the totals, you'll see it was a 2 million gain. And really the rest stayed about the same, like the marshals and so on. But those really are the big changes. And we had a net gain. The report, I think, is easy to follow. Just for me, it's the first time I've ever had this many people on my committee, 11 years, and they all came, so that was very good. Also, the second page, page 2, the second paragraph really goes into the revenue from the jail, but I wanted to add in that Superintendent Brackett really gave us details about how they maximize the space. They have to separate gang members. Sometimes they have more ICE, sometimes they have more women, whatever the situation is. And so they have to take their time and really shift things around as needed so they can use the space the most efficiently. So I thought that was very interesting because I had never, well, I feel like now I can picture it, that you've got these spaces and you're kind of moving things around. So I really appreciated that.
There were a lot of people there in the subcommittee meeting at the jail, did the tour.
Yeah.
And heard this presentation you were going to.
And we also had time for the new people to really get to ask some questions that had never been on that committee before. And then we did pass it unanimously.
Any other questions about revenue? Representative Bailey?
Well, while I appreciate that we're getting more than we used to, I've never seen, and maybe it's because we're in a revenue silo, that it's fun to get more revenue. Was the old revenue covering the costs? I begin to doubt that it was, and is the new
I'll let
revenue,
Administrator Bauer.
is the new revenue gonna cover the lost? And I heard already
well, for me,
we're gonna make it up in volume. Well,
Yeah.
that's kind of ironic almost.
for me, I
comical
think
that
these
it-
budgets are always moving targets.
Yeah.
And there could be some significant cuts coming our way. I remember that if they make any significant changes in the budget, they have to come back to us.
It's not fully satisfying to say we're losing money, but don't worry, we'll make it up in volume. I want to laugh,
Yeah.
you know, are we covering what it costs in what we charge?
Administrator Bauer?
Pensions, everything.
More so.
Top to bottom.
More so, and in fact, I'm happy to provide you, we do this every year. As soon as we get the audit, we wait for the audit, so the last numbers I'll be able to give you are 2023. So I will provide everybody on the executive committee on Monday. Unfortunately, our finance director's on vacation till Monday, but it's all done. I'll provide you with a detailed analysis of cost per day, and then cost per day minus revenue, cost per day for Carrie's programs that she talked about earlier this morning, which is, community corrections and again, of which we have as of last Monday, 599 people involved. and it's all subtracted out, it's all done out, it's on a long spreadsheet. I'm happy to send you that whole thing, cause that's a
That would
piece
help.
of, that is a piece of how we determine what our new rate should be.
What I would expect to see is that ICE is zero expense to the county. It's zero.
It's the other way.
You wanna make money off
Yeah.
it.
We wanna
Well, I
make
don't-
money.
I don't know that we're entitled to expect to make money, but it should be zero cost.
Well, I mean, we have to
Right,
feed these,
soup to nuts, right to pension.
we have to feed these people. I have it even beyond pensions. I have a depreciation of the building. So I mean,
Well, that's part of the soup to nuts.
I understand, sir. That's what I'm trying to answer you.
There's no reason anybody in this county should be paying a nickel for ICE detention.
Representative Burnham, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. So you're saying we're gonna get 2023's complete revenue received?
We already sent that.
The
Yeah.
fourth quarter budget,
The audited
Well,
figure.
so I just,
It's the audited
the
figure.
audited figure, but so it's really difficult to understand how much revenue we're making when we're not getting the final numbers. And so we'll get this portion, up to September, and then we get the anticipated. I would like to know that
It's in your
anticipated.
It's-
When-
We sent it to you by February 15th, which is the requirement by law. And the fourth quarter numbers unaudited, but the fourth quarter numbers are in your pot.
This before.
No, sir, that's up to the third quarter as required by the statute.
Okay,
One of these letters.
because it's just,
And we sent it to everybody as I was schooled,
I see that.
I
didn't see that.
I was
part,
schooled by one of our current commissioners a couple of years ago, about, making sure that you receive our unaudited fourth quarter numbers by February 15th. We sent that to everybody.
That's this letter here.
I think unfortunately, February is the busiest month. for
I know,
everybody.
I
Yeah,
understand.
I get, so I think, so from my perspective, for next budget cycle, I'll do a better job of trying to make sure that I'll highlight it. Because it is, as you sit here right now, there's just mounds of paper and it gets confusing, so.
We're going from one point to another without.
We will
referencing this.
work on that for the next budget cycle to make it easier. Did you have a question, Representative? Are there any other questions about the revenue? All right, at that point, we'll move on then to the Riverside, report, Representative Wall.
Thank you. Do you want my 8-page report or anything?
We'll take your.
I'll do the 8-second thing. Okay, we had great attendance at the Riverside Restaurant Subcommittee. Very few questions, no serious concern from anybody. The changes to the restaurant simply are that a lot of long-term staff members have had to retire. So other duties have been combined and shifting has taken place so that everything is covered, but some people are sharing jobs and it's working. By union agreement, the salaries were set where they are. No one's really asking for increases. It's pretty much a flat budget. And I was pleased with the members who could stay and do the tour of the rest home. I actually saw for the first time, because I hadn't paid attention before, the floor, what it's made of. That stuff is really lethal, but we won't get into that today. What impressed me was the quality of care I saw individual staff members giving the residents. And Ray Bauer knows the name of every single person and takes the time to talk with them. And they understand him and they adore him. We are really grateful for Ray, who works weekends, he works holidays, he visited us all. And I personally don't think we'll ever find another person like him. I know what it was like before Ray came, and it was not a good situation over there. So anyway, unanimously, the committee supported the commissioner's recommendations. They worked hard for Ray to keep the costs down. Costs have gone up somewhat on food, for example, with eggs, what's happening with that. So smart thinking. Go ahead, Ray, tell them the egg story.
We just bought enough eggs for 4 months. You can freeze eggs, as long as you take them out of their shells and so when we got notice from our vendors that eggs were going up, we bought as many as they had. And had them, it was kind of humorous to see everybody hauling eggs in. But it'll save us quite a bit of money. I think we all know what we're paying for eggs and, it's not as simple as saying to our our residents have grown up at a time when eggs has been a staple of their breakfast. And so they can't necessarily appreciate, the fact of why we might have to change that. So we're hoping that, after that 4-month period of time or so, that the bird flu is a little better under control and egg prices start coming down. At least our current administration has guaranteed us that, so we're counting on that to come through, but we've bought 4 months worth because we bought them at a heck of a deal.
And then I had plan B is that we begin to introduce tofu as an alternative, for our residents.
Our residents don't even understand what tofu is, so that wouldn't do us any good.
We have tons of land, we should freaking get a chicken farm going right
That's
now.
one of the suggestions that's been talked about.
Are there any questions?
Could I just add one thing?
Yes, please.
And this isn't a pleasant thing, but it's a necessary thing to keep the executive committee informed. We had a bout of the viral intestinal flu. When I say about, I am looking at the line here that we have to provide to the state. It's 164 cases. Now that is 85 residents and 79 staff. So that no one went to the hospital. No, we managed all of that. As you know, there's no vaccine, there's no treatment. And in fact, the doctors don't want you to do things like give people Imodium, which, helps prevent the diarrhea and the vomiting. They don't want you to do that. They want it to run through your system. It usually lasts, they say 2 to 3 days. With our residents, it tended to be 3 to 4 days. With our staff, we wanted to keep them out so that they didn't spread it to the residents that didn't get it. So we took a pretty good hit in February. And I'm letting you know it's gone now. One thing I'll tell you is that this year, we've had no COVID. We've had 3 cases of flu, but the advantage with flu over the norovirus that I just talked about is flu can be treated and vaccines for. So all of our residents who will agree to it have vaccines for the flu, and you can treat the flu. So if a resident gets the flu, their roommate and their bathroom mates are all treated prior to them showing any symptoms, and so far none of them have spread. So we've only had 3 individualized cases. The norovirus, on the other hand, there's nothing you can give to them. So if you have somebody else in the room with you, they're gonna get it, and their bathroom mates are gonna get it. There's nothing we can do about that, because again, there's no vaccine and there's no treatment. So I just wanted to report that. Unfortunately, in my tenure, that's the largest, that we've ever had. But I will tell you that, as the county attorney could have told you, because her and her family are going through that right now, it's just not a pleasant situation, but it's not life-threatening in any way. So no residents were sent to the hospital. So in that case, we were very fortunate.
Anything else?
No, that's it. I just want to say that, the meeting was amazingly calm, and they're all, not amazing that it was thorough, but it was just, everyone was so happy with this budget because it was so clear, so concise, and we could clearly see where things were moved around as they had to be for staff and such. And so, yes, it was easy to get a unanimous vote to support the commission's recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions on the Riverside Rest Home portion of the budget? Okay, so to wrap it up, through all 4 of these, we already dealt with potential changes for the general government. The only other recommendation that's on the table from one of the subcommittees that we haven't dealt with came from the criminal justice this morning, which was the addition of $12,730 to the clothing budget, which would go for, believe it or not, new underwear. Would I leave this to the executive council? The recommendation was the subcommittee to add the $12,730. Is there someone who would motion to add it?
Second.
So it's moved by Representative Wall and seconded by Representative Horgan. Would anyone like to speak to the motion?
Just a point of order.
Yes.
So we're gonna vote on the whole thing. I have two parts to my question. One is, so will 12,000 be added to the budget total? Is that correct?
I believe that the
So
intention
that
would be
number will
to
go
add,
up by 12. Again, it's the best estimate we have.
the recommendation to the commissioners would be that we add $12,730 to the budget. That would be the motion.
And then my part two is,
Pardon me?
Put that under correction, department correction.
Yes, it would be under the clothing section line item of the corrections.
and then my part two is, this is a recommendation, because in the end, the commissioners can decide what they do with the budget. Just like with the school board or anyone else, right?
They'll support,
Yeah,
of course, they'll support.
yeah, but I just wanted to make sure we're in a recommending mode.
Right.
And they present the budget to the public.
Any other questions on the motion? All right, I will call the vote.
Bailey,
No.
Burnham,
No.
Harrington,
No.
Corrigan,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Krasinski,
No.
Lamontaine. Yes. Clerk Brooks, yes.
I didn't,
This is for the
I didn't hear you,
$12,000.
I didn't hear you.
Yes. For the $12,000. Malone,
Yes.
Potenza,
No.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Southworth,
Yes,
Wall,
Yes.
and Howland.
Yes. So the motion passes 9-5. With that said, I would entertain a motion to approve the recommendation of the budget as amended to the full delegation. Moved by Representative Wall. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Representative Malone. Can I call the vote, please?
Bailey,
No.
Burnham,
No.
Harrington,
No.
Corrigan,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Krasinski,
No.
Lamontaine, yes. Clerk Brooks, yes. Malone,
Yes.
Potenza,
No.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Southworth,
yes.
Wall,
Yes.
and Howland.
Yes.
9-5.
Motion passes 9-5. That moves us on to number 9 on the agenda. What? Oh, I forgot that. I need to back up. I apologize. I was supposed to ask Representative Howard, are you alone in the room, and why you're unable to entertain because of the tree? So can you?
Yeah. So, yes, I'm alone. I'm at home right now. Unfortunately, I was not able to come in this morning because there was a tree blocking my road. I live at the end of a dead-end street, and it was completely impassable. So Eversource is currently in the process of trying to clear it. The road is still blocked. Apparently, my dad was trying to get out to leave, and he was still not able to. So unfortunately, because of those reasons, I was not able to show up this morning.
Thank you.
Helicopter wasn't working.
Thank you, Representative Howard.
So just to echo Representative Howard's challenge, while we
the meeting, I've just been notified, group 4 is currently closed between Durham and Portsmouth due to trees down, and obviously that's a main thoroughfare they're working to clear. But so there are trees down all over, and so I just would encourage everybody here and everybody watching to travel safely. Yeah, and there's a tree down right out here. on
Yeah,
the
there
road
was,
coming
yeah, I
in.
hope it's not in my neighborhood. All right, with that, we'll move on to item 9, which is the motion to approve the minutes from November 22nd executive committee meeting. Do I entertain someone to, Representative Wall, motion to approve the minutes? Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Representative Southworth. We'll call the vote.
Bailey?
No, we don't have to have a roll call on it.
You know, just raise your hand.
All in favor, say aye.
Even better. Are there any other orders of business? If not, I'll entertain the motion I like the most, which is the motion to adjourn, made by Representative LaMontagne, seconded by Representative Harrington. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very, very much.